Hello and welcome. Fate of 20 lawmakers from Cross River State hangs in the balance as Federal High Court Abuja declares their seats vacant for defecting from the PDP to the APC. President Muhammadu Buhari expected in Lagos tomorrow to commission Terminal 2 of Murtala Mohammed Airport and a fertilizer plant owned by Dangote Group. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission moves against officer who leaked video of former Anambra Governor Willie Obiano in detention room, condemns action, calls it an odious act. And tragedy in China as Boeing aircraft carrying 132 people on board crashes near the city of Wuzhou in the southern Chinese region. And we have the international news from our London studio.
On business news tonight, U.S. tech giant Microsoft opens first $100 million African Development Center in Lagos, pledges to provide employment opportunities for Nigerians.
On sports news tonight, Super Eagles camp open in Abuja as preparation for the FIFA 2022 World Cup playoff against Ghana's Black Stars begin.
And from Abuja, the death toll from the Kaduna terrorist attack in Kaura local government area rises to 26. Among the dead are 2 soldiers.
If you're a politician occupying an elective office and planning to dump your party for another, you may have to think again, as indications from the court show that the practice may soon be a thing of the past. And this comes as the Federal High Court in Abuja today sacked 20 lawmakers from Cross River State for unlawful defection from the People's Democratic Party to the ruling All Progressives Congress. In a judgment delivered by Justice Taiwo, the court held that the lawmakers, having abandoned the political party that gave them a platform, ought to vacate their seats. Counsel to the sacked Cross River lawmakers, Michael Zekome, says his clients will appeal the judgment.
The defendants in this matter, the legislators, tendered hard evidence in terms of letters of expulsion by the PDP as a political party due to the schism and crisis at the national level of the party, saying they were expelled from the political party and that they did not defect. The other point also that we also disagree with is that the entire dramatis personae in this matter, all the people who were said to have defected, all the actions took place in Calabar, in Cross River State. The defection, their election, their election, the dismissal or expulsion, all of them took place in Calabar, where you have the PDP and the APC. So question, what are we doing at the Federal High Court Abuja here? The proper forum, not just territorially, but also going by the practice directives of the Chief Judge of the Federal High Court, is that a matter should be filed where the cause of action arose.
Today's judgment on the Cross River lawmakers comes after a similar one sacking the Ebonyi State Governor Dave Umahi, his deputy, and members of the State House of Assembly who defected with him from the PDP to the APC. Now Governor David Umahi and his deputy Kelechi Igwe have formally withdrawn a motion on notice, seeking a stay of execution of the order by the Federal High Court, removing them from office. Their decision is hinged on the fact that they have now approached the Court of Appeal, Abuja Division, seeking to reverse the decision of Justice Yangekwo of the Federal High Court Abuja that ordered their removal from office. And away from the courts, the president today summoned Governor Hope Uzodinma of Imo State, the Minister of Power, Mr. Abubakar Aliyu, as well as the Chief Economic Advisor, Professor Doyin Salami, to a meeting at the presidential villa. The president met separately with them and received briefing on the latest developments in Imo State, the power sector, and the state of the economy. This is coming 24 hours after the president had condemned the spate of violence in Imo State in the aftermath of the destruction of buildings and assets of the police and the home of the President General of Ahaneze Ndibo, Professor George Obiozo, pledging to review the security situation in southeast Nigeria. Our State House correspondent Gloria Umezoke reports.
Governor Hope Uzodinma of Imo State is the president's first visitor on his first day of resumption after a 2-week medical checkup in the United Kingdom. The insecurity challenge in the southeast and most recently attack on the country home of the President General of Ahaneze Ndibo, Professor George Obiozo, by gunmen who set his home ablaze is apparently high up on the president's list of major concerns.
Not only that he has promised to continue to help and support, he already approved the immediate requests which are made, prominent among them, support by government for us to collect credible intelligence. So that because with credible intelligence, our jobs will be easier.
Briefing State House correspondents, Governor Uzodinma gives more update on arrests made. Although the governor maintains that attacks are politically motivated, he insists there are ongoing efforts to dialogue with aggrieved parties.
For those who are aggrieved, I don't know whether those grievances are against government or against individuals, but those who we think that are part of the political system that are not contributing positively to the current administration. We're also reaching out to them. Of course, I know if anything is anything to go by, some of the reasonable minds have started coming back.
He further clears doubts of some political watchers who insist the APC convention might not hold. In the aftermath of the national grid collapse and the persistent power outages, the president also summons the Minister of Power. The president is taking this action after he had promised to address the situation.
I directed NAC, MBED, and the Niger Delta Power Holding Company to go into emergency gas contract to ensure that their plants are activated to supply about 800 megawatts from that angle.
The president also met with his chief economic advisor, Dr. Doyin Salami, who expectedly briefed the president on the current economic trajectory, which is supposed to foster macroeconomic growth, create jobs, as well as eradicate poverty, particularly as the president promises to eliminate poverty and lift 100 million Nigerians out of poverty in 10 years. From the presidential villa, Gloria Umezoke, Channels Television News.
It's been 6 years since the federal government established the Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council to remove delays and restrictions that come with doing business in Nigeria. 3 years later, a trade app was created to further improve the business climate in the country, especially for the micro, small and medium enterprises, in line with the Ease of Doing Business initiative. In this next report, our technology correspondent Victor Matthias takes a look at the app.
Following complaints by Nigerians on how difficult the business terrain is, a presidential committee was established to make things easier. With the internet being an enabler, the committee built an app and a website for easy access to small and medium enterprises from across the nation. A quick search on the Google Play Store and Apple Store shows the app has been downloaded by not more than 10,000 people 3 years after it was launched. This necessitated a poll on Channels TV's Twitter handle, with the results showing that only 8% of over 1,000 respondents know about the app. But how does it work? First, you have to either download the app from the Apple or Google stores, or alternatively, visit report.gov.ng and businessmadeeasy.ng. Create an account, then lay complaints which will be picked by the Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council (PEBEC), then forwarded to the MDA in question, after which you will receive a notification of receipt of your query to be solved within 72 hours. You can also access any of the ease of doing business focus areas ranging from starting a business, getting credit, registration of property in Lagos and Kano, entry and exit of people, trading across borders, obtaining construction permits, paying taxes, getting electricity, resolving insolvency, protecting minority investors, selling to government, enforcing contracts and trade within Nigeria, amongst others. Statistics from report.gov.ng in the month of February 2022 shows that the Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria (FAN) was the busiest with 17 solved queries out of 18, while the Central Bank of Nigeria didn't respond to the only query sent through the portal. Furthermore, in its recently published Executive Order 1 Compliance Report, which presents analysis of monthly reports submitted by MDAs from January to June 2021, the Standards Organization of Nigeria, Oil and Gas Free Zone Authority, Nigerian Export-Import Bank, Nigerian Content Development Management Board, and the National Pension Commission are the top overall 5 performers in compliance for the period under review. Currently, there are 19 MDAs on the app, with 35 that directly affect the business environment about to be onboarded. The Business Made Easy report records the reform journey from January 2020 to June 2021, a particularly challenging period for the business environment due to the global COVID-19 pandemic. However, the result establishes the need to intensify EO1 compliance across all MDAs. It also shows that all agencies fell short of the timeline for resolution, as the average overall performance score for all MDAs for the period 2021 was 33.58%, reflecting a drop in the overall compliance compared to the performance in the year 2020. The need for sensitization and media campaign for Nigerian business owners also needs to be prioritized so that those it was created for can make use of it henceforth.
And in other business, the Monetary Policy Committee of the Central Bank has voted to retain the key interest rate at 11.5% and keep other parameters unchanged amid concerns over what it calls imported inflation. At the end of its one-day rates decision meeting, the second this year, the governor of the Central Bank, Godwin Emefiele, pointed out that ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine is a major factor behind energy and commodity prices, which has in turn negatively affected Nigeria's economy.
Macroeconomic uncertainties associated with the recent Russia-Ukraine crisis.
Russian invasion of Ukraine and its attendant impact is a major consideration for members of the Central Bank of Nigeria's monetary policy meeting as they decide on macroeconomic parameters for the second time in 2022 to close the first quarter of the year.
These include the likelihood of tightening external financial conditions associated with monetary policy normalization in the advanced economies, the cocktail of sanctions imposed on Russia, and increasing vulnerabilities associated with the burgeoning global private and public debt portfolio and risks to financial stability.
Other factors, according to the CBN governor, include uncertainties in global financial markets, global supply chain constraints, inflation, which has led to a hike in rates in the United States and the United Kingdom, the persisting fragile recovery from COVID-19 pandemic, among others. These pressing realities elicit a tightening stance from 4 members of the 10 members of the committee. However, majority believe that a hold stance will be the best for the Nigerian economy.
Members were of the view that tightening the stance of policy to rein inflation could adversely impact the fragile recovery of output growth and may stifle the expected investment expansion.
Petrol and diesel is rising.
During the question and answer session, attention returns to the volatile oil prices in the global space, which impact Nigeria even beyond the war in Ukraine.
If there's any kind of intervention that we can provide to help it make it easy for them to bring in these products, so that this shortage can stop, then we will see that when supply increases and people are relatively confident that when they sell whatever they are holding in petrol or diesel stock, that they can easily go and replace them, then the arbitrary price increases will reduce.
As the meeting comes to an end, Nigerians will be looking out for the impacts of the promised intervention of the CBN, while the Apex Bank will be watching to see how its whole stance on interest rate will stimulate growth in the macroeconomy. Ini John Mekwa, Channels Television News.
In part 2, after the break, more on the CBN Monetary Policy Committee meeting. I've been joined in a moment by the CEO, Financial Derivatives Company, Mr. Bismarck Rewani, on decisions taken today. That's in a moment. Do join us again. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, coming to you live from Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Fate of 20 lawmakers from Cross River State hangs in the balance as Federal High Court Abuja declares their seats vacant for defecting from the PDP to the APC. President Muhammadu Buhari expected in Lagos tomorrow to commission Terminal 2 of Murtala Mohammed Airport and a fertilizer plant owned by Dangote Group. EFCC moves against officer who leaked video of former Anambra Governor Willie Obiano in detention room, condemns action. And tragedy in China as Boeing aircraft carrying 132 people on board crashes near the city of Wuzhou in the southern Chinese region of Guangxi. Let's discuss today's MPC decision. I'm now being joined on the news at 10 by the CEO of Financial Derivatives Company, Mr. Bismarck Rewani. Thanks a lot, Mr. Rani, for joining us on the news at 10.
Good evening. Thanks for having me.
And the last time I had you in the chair, we were talking about status quo remaining the same, but it's quite a different world. Yeah. What's going on? Tell us.
8 weeks ago is like eternity. In other words, 8 weeks ago, we were dealing with subsidy, and we're dealing with bad fuel, and it's a different world. 8 weeks ago, there was no, Ukraine had not been invaded by Russia, and the price of diesel was 350 naira per liter. Today it's completely different. It's 700 naira for a liter. The naira was trading at that time at about 540. Today it's trading about 590 in the parallel market. So it's a different thing. Basically what has happened is that there has been massive exogenous shocks. You have the first war, massive war in the European territory in 80 years, right? We have 3.6 million refugees and almost 10 million people going to be displaced, quarter of the population of Ukraine. Ukraine produces it's the fifth largest producer of maize and probably about the third largest producer of wheat. Russia produces gas and all. So there has been, this is what they call a huge exogenous shock that has created an energy crisis, a commodity crisis, a financial crisis because of the sanctions, and also at the same time a refugee humanitarian crisis. The effect of it is felt all over the world, but more so for a country like Nigeria, which was ill-prepared for exogenous shocks. So we're having it, we have domestic structural issues. We also have, in addition to that, exogenous shocks, which are actually compounding a problem. As if that's not bad enough, we are in the midst of an electoral cycle.
So why would we be on status quo then, with all this new stuff happening?
Typically, central banks do not like to make moves during electoral cycles because it will be interpreted as if they're trying to favor one party or other. And this is a very peculiar situation in the sense that the central bank has to be independent, has to be apolitical, and cannot be seen to be compromised in any way, form, or manner. So that's one. Two, there's a limit to what monetary policy can go, right? And so we've got to that point where you really cannot do much. And now you're dealing with inflation. Inflation in Europe, in the United States, 7.9%, highest level in 41 years. In the UK, it's 5.5%. In the euro area, 5.9%. Therefore, it's not just Nigeria specific, but it gets worse here. And whether you like it or not, we did 194 billion naira worth of wheat from Russia and about 190 billion naira worth of wheat from Ukraine. Today, you can't even pay anybody in Ukraine or pay anybody in Russia because they're cut off the SWIFT system and all that. So the inventory of a normal wheat miller is about 120 days or something. So by the time we get into April, Ramadan starts on the 2nd, Easter is on the 15th and 17th, you begin to see shortages of wheat and bread. Right now, a loaf of bread is going to be going for about 1,000 naira. And so you have some real challenges ahead. Not much you can do about it, but just what you can do is palliatives, stimulus, and all of that. But again, you are going to have to be borrowing, and we are pushing a fiscal cliff. So, quite frankly, there are some very challenging days ahead. I think that's the news. So what could the central bank do? Not much. Status quo is here. But for the first time in many meetings, first of all, this is the 16th meeting which is maintained status quo out of 18 meetings. 4 people voted out of the 10. 4 voted to increase interest rates, 1 by 50 basis points and 3 by 25 basis points, which means that the hawks are coming out. But because your inflation this time is cost push, not demand pull, even if you increase interest rates, you're not going to mop up anything. The Nigerian ordinary man is stretched. So there's not much, you can't get water out of the stone. So the reality is that the only way out is to increase supply and to increase aggregate supply for that matter. And that's quite a stretch. Is
this what you say is the ordinary man test versus the reasonable man test? Talk us through that.
Well, the reality is that in economics we say the rational man. In law they say the reasonable man. The reality is that the Nigerian ordinary man is under so much pressure that is no longer, you cannot consider him a reasonable man anymore because he's under so much pressure. He's stressed. Basically, he has seen prices increase in the past 2 years by about 133%, even though the official data says 15% per annum. The reality is that when you look at that slide there, you'll find that all of a sudden you are looking at the prices, and I'll take you through the prices very soon in a second. The prices you see are, you'll find that diesel, which is one of the key issues, is up by almost, that's right. The power grid is producing 2,000 megawatts. There have been 4 force majeures in the last 2 weeks, as against 5,340. Diesel was 190 naira in 2020. It's now 700 post 700 naira, up 294%. Petrol remains the same at 165. The bag of flour was 8,500 2 years ago. It's now it's up 181%. Sardine was 200. It's now 600. Cooking gas was 3,500. It's now 8,000. It's come down. Rice 25 down up to 30,000. Now fertilizer has gone by 220% to 16,000. The president is going to open the fertilizer plant tomorrow. Now, basically, averagely, the price of goods have gone up by 133%. This Nigerian man is under so much pressure, and therefore he can no longer be considered a rational person. Policies are made for rational and reasonable people. Therefore, you need to intervene. Because the guy is under so much pressure, he's not making rational decisions anymore. So you need 2 levels of intervention. One is psychiatric intervention to stabilize this guy who is on edge already, because he's living in a grind, basically. And financial intervention to stabilize him. And all of these things have to be done. But we are 340 days away from an election. We are the resources, and whatever you do now will be considered politically motivated. So it's between a rock and a hard place right now. And that is the key thing. So what next? This guy who is stretched is hoping for some succor. But unfortunately, the price of oil could go as high as $200 a barrel It's 111 today, but it could drop to $60 a barrel. But no matter where the direction of oil, the Nigerian economy seems oblivious to revenue from oil because we didn't invest at the right time and all of that. So we made some wrong decisions. But what's happening is that the price of refined products is increasing. So the level of the subsidies. So basically, Nigeria raised about $1.2 billion last week from the Eurobond market. To do what? To support subsidies, right? So what does the future hold? The future this time, first and foremost, the war in Ukraine must come to an end soon. The global oil prices have to stabilize, and then we have the supply shocks, which we're having from wheat, from diesel, from all of these things, need to stabilize. But if not, there's going to be some difficult days ahead. This Easter is not going to be fun, neither will the Ramadan be fun, but again, they say it's when the going gets tough, the tough gets going.
Indeed. Thank you so much, CEO of Financial Derivatives Company, Mr. Bismarck Rawani. Thanks for doing this for us on the news.
Thank you for having me.
Still ahead on the news at 10, U.S. tech giant Microsoft opens first $100 million African Development Center in Lagos. That's all business news. Do join us again. Welcome back to the news at 10. Tomorrow promises to be a busy day for the president, who's expected here in Lagos, where he'll be commissioning some major projects. Among them are the newly built international terminal of the Murtala Mohammed Airport. President Muhammadu Buhari will also commission the multi-billion naira Dangote Fertilizer Company, Africa's largest granulated urea fertilizer complex, located at the Lekki Free Trade Zone.
Fertilizers help the soil increase its fertility, thereby promoting the growth of plants. To ensure the farmers remain on the trajectory of growth and food sufficiency, the $2 billion Dangote fertilizer plant in Lagos is set to be formally launched by President Muhammadu Buhari. The second biggest fertilizer plant in Africa is expected to churn out about 3 million tons per year, and over 100 trucks are expected to convey about 4,000 tons of fertilizer daily to consumers. While Nigeria's 20 kilogram per hectare consumption of fertilizer is low compared to global standards, the country is aiming for 50 kilograms per hectare, helping farmers to improve yield. From the fertilizer plant on one end of Lagos, President Buhari will also be stopping by in Ikeja, the state capital, for the commissioning of the new Terminal 2 of the Murtala Mohammed International Airport. It's one of the 5 terminals funded in part by a $500 million loan acquired from the Export and Import Bank of China in 2013. Terminal 2 is opening to the public 7 years after construction commenced and is expected to process 14 million passengers per annum, as well as add some economic value. Facilities in the terminal include a spacious departure hall, 5 baggage collection carousels, 16 immigration desks at arrival, 28 immigration desks at departure, 8 security screening points, 6 passenger boarding bridges, and visa on arrival and port health facilities, among others. At the formal commissioning, the Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria is also expected to sign a memorandum of understanding with the Lagos State government over the construction of a 9-kilometer airport Shasha Alimosho Link Road, which is expected to ease traffic around the airport. From the baggage claim area of the new terminal at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport in Lagos, Bukola Joe Uketumbi, Channels Television News.
Let's cross over to Abuja now, and here's Markwe Ogun Yusuf. Markwe?
Hello, Ijoma. Security leads the lineup here as the death toll in yesterday's attack by terrorists on Agban Kagoro Chiefdom in Kaura local government area of Kaduna State has risen to 26. The new figure was confirmed to Channels Television by the chairman of Kaura local government, Matthias Seaman, who also said that 2 soldiers were killed while one other is in critical condition. He explained that about 7 other people sustained various degrees of injury and are currently receiving treatment in some hospitals within Kaduna State and Jos in Plateau State. The soldiers who were attached to Operation Safe Haven were ambushed as they came to repel the attack. Over 100 houses were set ablaze by the bandits during the attack. According to the council chairman, the terrorists invaded the community with 3 18-seater buses at about 7 p.m. on Sunday night and operated till 11 p.m. Following the attack, the Kaduna State government has imposed a 24-hour curfew in Kaura and Jama'a local government areas with immediate effect. And to economic security, Chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, Abdurrashid Bawa, has been speaking on steps being taken to ramp up the fight against corruption. According to him, the Commission has developed a 5-year strategic plan to guide its operational approach in law enforcement action. Mr. Bawa, who was speaking at the opening of the 5th Annual General Assembly meeting of the Network of National Anti-Corruption Institutions in West Africa in Abuja, also said that the former Anambra State Governor Willie Obiano has remained in detention because he's yet to fulfill his bail conditions. The EFCC also says it has subjected the officer behind the trending video of the former governor of Anambra State, who is being interrogated by the agency, to appropriate disciplinary action in line with its guiding principles. A statement by its spokesperson, Wilson Uwujaren, explains that the viral video was not authorized by the anti-graft agency and that it has no place in its mode of operation. In health matters, the Presidential Steering Committee on COVID-19 has announced a revision of international travel protocols to take effect from Monday, April the 4th, 2022. At a press conference in Abuja, PSC Chairman Mr. Boss Mustafa said inbound fully vaccinated passengers arriving in Nigeria will no longer be required to take a pre-departure PCR COVID-19 test. Instead, fully vaccinated passengers will on arrival take a simple test at the airport for rapid antigen test administered by the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, within the arrival hall of the airport. He adds that passengers who are unvaccinated or partially vaccinated are expected to take a COVID-19 PCR test 48 hours before departure or do a day 2 and day 7 test on arrival. Such passengers, he says, will be expected to pay for their PCR test through the travel platform, while fully vaccinated passengers will not be charged for arrival rapid antigen tests at the airport. Into some company news, toothpaste brand Pepsodent is raising awareness on oral health and encouraging good oral care habits among Nigerians in commemoration of the 2022 World Oral Health Day. The brand revealed that it will provide mobile dental clinics in specific neighborhoods across the country to give free services to consumers.
In demonstration of its commitment to promoting good oral hygiene amongst Nigerians, Pepsodent, a leading toothpaste brand, kicks off activities to mark the 2022 World Oral Health Day with a press conference in Lagos. With the theme, Don't Wait Until It's Too Late, Pepsodent announces its plans to address oral health issues, especially tooth decay, which is the most widespread disease in the world, as it affects both children and adults.
Now, the Pepsodent Brush Day and Night Schools campaign is a 21-day behavioral change campaign. And we believe that after 21 days, the behavior should be set. And the children should know the benefits of brushing day and night, and then make it a habit, and then also influence other members of their family. So we have this campaign and we go to schools and educate these children, and we do that on a yearly basis.
Pepsodent partners the Nigeria Dental Association and FDI World Dental Federation to drive the awareness campaign and give people access to dental care.
It's very important that people start taking their oral health conditions very seriously. What happens generally is that people wait to go to the dentist only when they have very serious and severe oral health conditions. And so we've decided to emphasize on the importance of speaking to a dentist early, taking care of your oral health preventively, so which is the brush day and night, brush twice, visit your dentist 2 times a year, and it will prevent, having to undergo severe oral conditions in terms of surgery and very expensive procedures. Yes, so that's why it's very important that we start talking about these situations now.
The Nigeria Dental Association endorses Pepsodent as a brand that delivers excellently on anti-cavity protection, fresh breath, and tooth whitening promise.
We usually conduct our analysis, both clinical and the laboratory analysis, to check that the particular product meets our standard. Pepsodent toothpaste meets the standard in all ramifications, as well as for Nigerians to use.
The brand says it's engaging 1 million children through its school programs, mobile dental clinics, and oral health education conferences.
At least we can close with a bright smile on that one. And Mamodo is standing by on business news. Please stay with us.
Banking, so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thanks a lot, Mark. And truly, the smile begins for engineers across Nigeria. And that's after the 2 years of announcements by the establishment. U.S. multinational technology giant Microsoft has now opened its first African Development Center right here in the country. The multi-million-dollar ultra-modern state-of-the-art facility was officially launched today by the Minister of Communications and Digital Economy, Issa Pantemi, right here in Lagos. Microsoft says the Development Center, which is its 7th globally, is expected to employ world-class African engineers as a sign of the continent's growing importance as a global hub for talents. Toyota Nigeria Limited today unveiled its multi-million naira state-of-the-art certified service center in Lagos. The Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, who was a special guest at the event, says this initiative is a demonstration of the opportunities created by the federal government's commitment to industrialization agenda. He describes the certified service center as a brilliant manifestation of the enabling business environments created by this administration.
When you have done business in Nigeria for over 50 years and have successfully done so, you may well earn yourself a bragging right. Toyota Nigeria Limited has invited these distinguished array of guests, led by the Vice President of the country, to his newly crafted service certified center here in Isolo, Lagos.
Ladies and gentlemen,
guests quickly settle in, and it's time to hear what this whole endeavor is about.
The center is a big simulation or dojo center which will undertake real-life situation research, experimental activities to gather data that can be used to resolve both dealer and customer issues.
Cleanliness is his forte.
The Vice President captures it more succinctly as he enumerates what today represents and what is in the offing to see more of this venture.
Recently, the President launched the Investing in Digital and Creative Enterprises program, IDICE, which is an over $600 million AFDB supported program that will provide assistance to young technology and creative sector entrepreneurs through the provision of finance, skills development, and infrastructure. Toyota, as we've heard repeatedly today, is by far Nigeria's favorite car. But it came to be so because of the foresight, commitment to high values, and the focused investments of Chief Michael Adeojo, OON. We pray that you will live much longer, not just to see the continued success of your children and your businesses, but also to see the Nigeria of your dreams.
The patriarch of the business couldn't hide his joy and fulfillment over what his offsprings have done in keeping the Toyota name afloat in Nigeria as a preferred choice.
This is the story of my family.
I think I've labored to build them up, and I thank God for making them to succeed when I'm alive, and therefore, when I'm gone, they will still succeed.
With all interest well expressed, the Vice President steps out on a tour of the facility set to be the first of its kind in Nigeria and in Africa in select areas. According to TNL, the center will complement efforts of other dealers in bridging the gap between the demand and supply for after-sales service and has deployed technology for efficient operations. It has a showroom, a general workshop area, an express maintenance zone with special pneumatic hand tools to carry out services within 25 minutes, a periodic maintenance zone, the general repair zone for major repairs, suspension work, multipurpose zone, diagnostic zone using the latest tools to detect faults, wheel balancing and tire repair zone incorporated with the latest 4D alignment tools.
With more than 16.56 billion naira drop in the total market value, Nigeria's stock market ended in a decline today, recording the last session amid sell pressure. Laya Adegoke has the details.
Thanks a lot for joining us for the stock market report. Equity sentiment remains downbeat into the start of the fourth week of March at the Nigerian exchange as investors extend sell pressure into Monday's trading session. While the market's main index fell further at the close of today's trading activities, but by a mild 0.07%, while the total value of listed equities dropped by 16 billion naira due to the impact of profit taking, largely from some key banking and insurance sector bellwether stocks, as you can see on the screen. Similarly, the activity chart recorded a rather dismal performance as total volume of shares traded today fell by 64.38%. Value was lower by 30.17%, while the number of deals rose by 4.59%. Meanwhile, the share price of Guinness Nigeria tops a list of 15 gainers with a 10% increase, while RT Briscoe led 20 other losers. Its share price was down by 10%. That's it on the stock market report. I'm Layo Adegoke.
And now let's find out how major global markets fared at the close of business today. And that's Business News Tonight. Thanks a lot for watching. I'm Anne Nwawadu. It's back to you, Joma.
Thanks a lot, Anne. Next on the news at 10, tragedy in China as Boeing aircraft carrying 132 people on board crashes near the city of Wuzhou in the southern Chinese region of Guangxi. And more international news from our London studio. Stay with us. Welcome back. Chinese President Xi Jinping has called for an all-out effort to be made in the rescue operation on a China Eastern Airlines passenger plane that crashed in the mountainous region south of the country. Here's Simon Pusey with other international news in Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. War is reaching the Ukrainian capital. Shards of glass thrown hundreds of yards by the force of this blast. This just one attack on the outskirts of Kiev. Firefighters scrambling to a shopping centre to rescue people stranded beneath the rubble. Kiev's Podil district a sea of concrete and debris. It's feared these scenes of destruction will become commonplace throughout the capital soon. Drone footage shows the scale of the blast. The mayor, Vitaly Klitschko, has said at least 8 people have been killed. Russia's invasion of Ukraine has already killed thousands of people. A full-scale assault on Kiev would make the number of casualties rise rapidly.
Kremlin has already killed 150 Ukrainian children, destroyed more than 400 schools and kindergartens, and more than 110 hospitals.
Meanwhile, footage has gone viral from the city of Kherson. Residents in the city chanting "Go home" as they confront two military vehicles with Russian markings. Following the confrontation by the protesters, these vehicles turned around and left the area. However, a reminder of the dangers of protesting against Russian forces. CCTV footage from the same city showing soldiers opening fire to disperse demonstrators. A Chinese passenger plane with 132 people on board has crashed in a mountainous area of southern China. Videos widely shared on social media that appear to be taken by locals show plane debris strewn around the hills and a fiery blaze and smoke billowing from the crash site. The China Eastern Airlines Boeing 737 was flying from Kunming to Guangzhou when it came down in the hills of Guangxi province and caught fire. It is feared there are no survivors, but the number of casualties and the reason for the crash are not yet known. Emergency services say the number of people injured when two trains collided in the Tunisian capital Tunis has risen to 95. Around 15 ambulance vehicles were at the scene to rush the injured to hospital. Most of the injuries were minor, with none life-threatening. Widespread sexual violence against women and girls in areas of conflict has been fueled by systemic impunity. That's according to the United Nations Commission on Human Rights in South Sudan. A 48-page report described a hellish existence for women and girls and said widespread rape was being perpetrated across the country. The report found that these attacks were not random, opportunistic incidents, but usually involved armed soldiers actively hunting down women and girls. Many African countries have announced they will ease their current COVID-19 restrictions in light of the improved pandemic situation in Africa. A ministerial meeting hosted by the government of Niger decided that those who can provide a negative test report or vaccination certificate can be exempt from quarantine, with Algeria doing similar. In addition, Zimbabwe and Kenya are carrying out various marketing campaigns to reboot the tourism sector with promising recovery. Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe has spoken publicly for the first time since her release from prison in Iran. Appearing in Parliament along with her husband Richard and daughter Gabriella, she said she should have been freed 6 years ago when she was first arrested on espionage charges, which she has always denied.
I have seen 5 foreign secretaries changed over the course of 6 years. That is unprecedented given the politics of the UK. I love you, Richard. Respect whatever you believe. But I was told many, many times that, oh, we're going to get you home. That never happened. So there was a time that I felt like, do you know what, I'm not even going to trust you.
And forest officials have released 150 turtle hatchlings into the sea in India's southern port town, Ramsarwam. School children who had been brought to learn about turtle conservation watched as the young sea turtles were released onto the beach. According to the World Wildlife Fund for Nature, sea turtles have been around for over 100 million years. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to Channel Studios in Lagos.
Many thanks, Simon. The Super Eagles camp has opened today in Abuja ahead of the 2022 FIFA World Cup playoff against the Black Stars of Ghana. Players in camp include Captain Ahmed Musa, Kelechi Iheanacho, Frank Onyeka, Daniel Akpeyi, Odion Igalo, Ogenekare Tebo, William Trist Ekong, Leon Balogun, Shemi Ajayi, Olaino, Sheu Abdullahi, and Francis Uzor. Now, the coaching crew expect to have a full house by tomorrow evening. That's sports news.
Thanks a lot, Ayotunde. And the main news again. The Federal High Court in Abuja today declared the seats of 20 lawmakers from Cross River State vacant for defecting from the PDP to the APC. Counsel to the sacked lawmakers, Michael Zekome, says his clients will appeal the judgment. And that's the news at 10 tonight. Thanks a lot for staying with us. I'm Bijoma Bunyato. Good night.